The cold weather is set to make a return to the United States, and we are tracking 3 to 4 potential storms over the next 2.5 weeks. We have all the details you need to know next at the Weather Farm. Most of the United States has enjoyed record warmth this week, especially along the southeastern part of the United States into Texas. That is all about to come to an end. We have 3 snowstorms that we are tracking over the next 2 weeks. The third one could be the most potent one. So we see an area of low pressure across southwestern Idaho that is bringing snow. This is associated with the last of the atmospheric rivers that moved on shore on our Thursday. So as it continues to move through the Intermountain West, it will bring a general light amount of snow, 4 to 7 inches. Where we saw those tornadoes through Tennessee on our Thursday night, all of that energy is now moved offshore, and we have generally quiet conditions for the eastern half of the United States for Friday morning, but that is about to change. And as we start our Saturday morning, we look at our map here, Saturday at 7 a.m., and we do see that area of low pressure in southeastern Kansas. It is following a very similar track to the Wednesday storm that moved out of the Central Plains into the Ohio Valley, bringing ice across parts of northern Indiana and Ohio into Pennsylvania. We even had some rumbles of thunder associated with this ice storm. Snow will remain up to the north through Minnesota, Wisconsin, into Michigan, and eventually into the northeast. As we look out west, though, we do have an area of disturbed weather off the coast of Washington. It's going to bring light snow showers and rain to the Pacific Northwest for our Saturday. In terms of our precipitation from Friday morning to Saturday morning, we're generally going to see light amounts through the Ohio Valley, down through the Carolinas. We will see up across the northern plains, this is all going to be in the form of snow, but generally light amounts, 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch. But as we get into the Intermountain West and we get in those higher elevations, that's where we're going to see those heavier snow totals. And again, along the coast where that low pressure system is making its way on shore, we could see light amounts of rain and snow. Zooming into different regions, generally across the Intermountain West, this is all going to fall in the form of snow. And so generally 1/4 to 1/2 an inch of liquid precipitation, 4 to 7 inches of snow in those lower elevations, up to 1 foot or more in those higher elevations. In the Pacific Northwest, most of the same as we look through Idaho over to Oregon and Washington, generally light amounts of precipitation through the Ohio Valley into Saturday morning. And this is right before the big event gets started, so the amounts are just beginning, but we will see light amounts through Arkansas and Missouri, 1/10 to a couple tenths of an inch. Same through Kentucky, 1/10 or 2 of precipitation. And down along the Carolinas, we could see up to 1/4 of an inch. So let's put our maps into motion now. That area of low pressure is in southeastern Kansas as we begin our Saturday. It will move to the east, spreading rain, ice through northern Indiana and Ohio, moving into Pennsylvania, heavy snow through Wisconsin, Michigan, and the northeast. That area of low pressure gets off the coast, and it continues to bring snowfall to New England on our Sunday morning. Even out along the Cape, we could see a few inches of snow. And associated with this particular storm on Saturday, we even have a marginal risk of severe weather across parts of southern Indiana and Ohio and across most of Kentucky into western West Virginia. This is due to the tight temperature gradient that is going to be present there for our Saturday. And if we look at those temperatures, we're going to see temperatures 61 degrees in Evansville, 67 in Lexington, Kentucky. But just about 100 miles north of there, it's going to be in the low 40s to upper 30s across parts of southern Ohio. It's going to be in the 20s across northern Indiana and Ohio. So we have from the top of Indiana to the bottom of Indiana, almost a 40-degree temperature change. And so along this temperature gradient is where we are going to see the greatest threat of severe weather for our Saturday. We will have temperatures, this is just crazy to think about, 74 in Nashville, but 41 in St. Louis. So it is very clear where we're going to see that storm system set up. And as it moves into the northeast, it's going to be all snow because we're going to have temperatures in the 20s in that area. But across the northern tier, across the Dakotas into Montana, single digits and teens. So as we look at our snowfall potential for Saturday into Sunday, this is from 7 a.m. Saturday to 7 a.m. on Sunday. We are going to see the heaviest totals across parts of central Wisconsin into central Michigan, making their way into New York. And there's going to be a sharp gradient as we see across the northern tiers of Indiana, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. That's where the snowfall, but to the south, that's where we're going to see that ice forming. That's where we're going to see the heavier rain to the south and even the severe weather across the lower Ohio Valley. So zooming in on those snowfall totals, by Sunday morning, we could see widespread 8 to 10 inches from New York all the way up through central Maine. We could even see some pockets in excess of 12 inches of snow. But parts of northern New Jersey will see 2 to 4 inches of snow. Out along Long Island, a couple inches of snow. Even out along the Cape, we'll see a couple inches of snow by the time we wake up on Sunday morning. Across parts of Ontario and Quebec, widespread 3 to 6 inches are likely. As we move back into the Midwest, we're going to see snowfall heaviest across central Wisconsin into central Michigan. 3 to 6 inches of snow is possible. The snow across Minnesota and the Dakotas is our Friday snowfall, and that's where we're going to see on our Friday about 4 inches of snow for those areas. And the other big thing that we have to worry about is the ice forecast. So we are still forecasting across parts of northern Illinois, Indiana, up to 1/10 of an inch of ice. As we move through northeastern Ohio, that increases to about 2/10 of an inch of ice. And as we get into Pennsylvania, we could see up to 1/2 of an inch of ice with this particular system. By the time we get to our Sunday, we have generally quiet conditions across most of the United States. That snow is moving out of the northeast as it makes its way offshore. We could see lingering showers, maybe an additional inch of accumulation during the day on our Sunday. Across the Dixie Valley, we're seeing scattered rainfall on our Sunday. We start to see a little bit more activity, a little bit more momentum in the weather on our Monday. We start to see here along parts of Oklahoma into northern Texas, we start to see a little dip in the 500 millibar contour lines. This is going to be the next breeding ground for the next system that's going to eject itself out of Colorado down through Oklahoma and Arkansas and make its way to the northeast for our Tuesday. That is going to be the first in a series of storms. We do have some snow across the Intermountain West. Light amounts are expected. And we do have a few scattered rain showers across the Carolinas. But let's take a look first at our temperatures, because we have enjoyed warmer than normal temperatures across most of the United States this past week. But this is our anomaly map. And so we see those colder temperatures building across the Northwest, and they are going to spread to the southeast as we go into our Tuesday. Temperatures across Montana 40 degrees below seasonal norms. Makes its way to the Central Plains for our Wednesday, 20 degrees below norms. And it even makes its way down into Texas, where you've enjoyed those 90s. By the time you get to Wednesday and Thursday, temperatures are going to be 10 to 15 degrees below normal. And this is the pattern that we're going to see over the next 2.5 weeks. The real core of the cold is going to stay north of the border and into the northern plains. But we are going to get these jabs of colder weather moving south and towards the east throughout Valentine's Day weekend, making our way to President's Day weekend. This is going to allow moisture opportunities that come up the systems that ride out of Colorado into the northeast to latch onto that colder air and have more chances of snow for those areas east of the Rockies for the next 2 weeks. And let's put our weather maps into motion. This is the GFS model as we start on our Monday the 10th. We see that area of low pressure originating out of Colorado. We see rain spreading out ahead of it. We could see some severe weather along Louisiana, but we're going to see snow through Indiana, Ohio, and more back into the northeast. Northeast, you are going to be locked in a snowy pattern for the next 2.5 weeks. By the time we get to Wednesday, we see yet another system making its way out. This one is going to take a little bit southerly route than the one previous, but we could still see widespread snow. And right on its heels, as we make our way to our Valentine's Day, yet another snowstorm is making its way through the Ohio and Tennessee valleys. Rain, heavy rain to the south, and then snow to the north. And this pattern continues even as we make our way to President's Day. This could be potentially another system that develops, bringing snow through the Ohio valleys into the Northeast by the time we get to Sunday the 16th. And this is the pattern that we will see. Nothing is locked in stone. This is still 6 to 10 days out from where we are today. A lot will and can, and most likely is definitely going to change as far as track, type of precipitation, amounts, things like that. So while you may see dark blues on this map indicating areas of heavy snow, that can change. But I will say that the general consensus is that the Northeast is going to see the best chance of seeing regular snow intervals of snow over the next 2 weeks. The Ohio and Tennessee Valley, that's our question mark, where the snow and rain lines set up over the next 10 to 14 days. So this is just one model run, taking us all the way out to the 22nd of February of where we think the potentially heavy snowfall might fall. So we see a good chance of the Northeast seeing decent snowfall over this time period. And that even stretches down through the lower Ohio Valley, through the northern Great Lakes, through Minnesota and northern Wisconsin, into the UP of Michigan. Good chance of seeing regular snowfall here. But I will tell you that this area from Kansas through Missouri, through southern Indiana and Ohio, that is the big question mark, because we see right to the south of it, we see a sharp snow gradient. So how far that cold air makes its way south and where it meets up with the moisture is going to be very critical to whether this heavy snow line is a little bit further north or it's a little bit further south. Those are the details that are going to be ironed out with each and every model run that we see, but that's going to be our area of focus. And of course, out west in the mountains, you're going to be measuring snowfall in the feet. So there's even a moderate risk now of heavy snow out for the mountainous regions, the Cascades, the Sierras, from February 14th to the 16th. A slight risk over the Rockies from the 14th to the 18th. With our temperature anomaly maps, we did see jabs of colder air making its way from the northern plains down into the Ohio and Tennessee valleys into the Northeast. And that's what this map really tells us. It doesn't say that for the entire time from the 14th to the 20th, the areas shaded in blue are going to be below normal. It says when you take the temperatures that are going to be the average of the high and low for each of the 7 days in that period, they are generally going to have a greater than likely chance of being below normal. The yellows and oranges and reds have a greater than likely chance of being above normal. But we will see daily fluctuations. We may see a jab of cold air impact the Ohio Valley for 2 or 3 days, replaced by a couple days of warmer temperatures, and then a couple days of colder temperatures. But it averages out to be below normal during this time period. So that's one thing to take note of when you look at this particular map. And we're going to see plenty of opportunities for moisture and precipitation from the Ohio and Tennessee, the Dixie Alley, all the way up into the Northeast. It's one of the reasons we think the Northeast has a great chance of seeing continued rounds of snow over the next 2 weeks. And out across the Pacific Northwest, where we saw that moderate risk of heavy snow from the 14th to the 16th, this aligns very well with our precipitation probability outlook of seeing above normal precipitation during that time. Now, after we get to the 22nd, this is just one model run of what the snowpack or the snow depth could look like. We will see snow in some of these other areas, but that snow will have melted by the time we get to the 22nd. Again, as I mentioned, 2 or 3 days of cold weather followed by some warm weather will help melt that snow. And so the snowpack on the ground, the snow depth, is going to be largely confined along the Canadian border, across North Dakota, Montana, Minnesota, and into the Northeast. But it's a deep snowpack. For as we get past the last week of February, we will see signs of warmth across the lower 48. But as we turn the calendar into March, there are signs that the pattern is going to flip to a colder pattern again. And it's going to be this snowpack across the Canadian provinces that are just going to help that colder air stay cold as it moves across the Canadian provinces down into the lower 48. And that could set up additional rounds of snowfall as we make our way into March. That is still over almost a month away. A lot can definitely change in that time period. But if we are seeing signs that we will see a brief warm up at the end of February, and we could potentially return to colder weather as we begin our March. So winter is definitely not over. The groundhog seems to be right in that it was 6 more weeks of winter left for the United States. I do want to show you one other model. So we have looked at a GFS model, that's the American model, but I want to show you as we end our video here today, the European model, because it has the same general themes. Now it may have the placements just slightly north or south than the American model, but let's look at that one as well. So as we watch that, we see the system moving into the Ohio Valley for our Saturday, quiet weather Sunday into our Monday, and then we see that next system move out of Colorado, cross the Ohio Valley Thursday, and then the one following it Tuesday into Thursday. So it is also consistent with 3 significant weather events before next Friday for the Ohio and Tennessee valleys. Now, the European, I will say, is a little more southern in its track on some of these storms, and the American's a little further north with its track. Over time, those model differences will be ironed out, and we will get a better handle on what's going to happen as we make our way into our next week. We thank you for joining us here at the Weather Farm. We hope you found this video informative. Please, if you have any questions, comments, leave those down below. We'd love to answer your questions and hear about the things that are on your mind. We hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again real soon.